Please remember that the Lucie Pod is not a replacement for professional medical advice. If you have questions or concerns about your own amazing brain, please speak to a medical professional. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I speak to you all today, the peoples of the Kulin Nation. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lucie Pod. I hope that you are all well and are staying safe. Today I have a guest joining me to talk about all things ADHD. Please welcome Jenny Bethke to the pod. Hi Jenny, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for being on here. I'm really excited.
Me too. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course.
I'm excited too.
So tell us about yourself, plug your Instagram, tell us about what you do, who you are, your interests and everything else.
Okay. I've been an ADHD coach for a few years now. I got started, kind of got to a place where after I got my own diagnosis, I have 3 kids and was going, how in the world do I parent kids with ADHD when I've got my own ADHD? Um, I can't help them unless I can help myself. So that's kind of what got me started. And I found coaching, and that kind of flipped everything around for me. I am just a little baby on Instagram and social media. I had been coaching, doing like contract work. It didn't need to market very much. And so I'm kind of, just diving into social media again, to kind of get my name out there. So I'm ADHD-ish coach is what I am under Instagram, but you can find me at jennybethke.com. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Love that.
What else should I say?
So I will definitely put your Insta and your website in the show notes. So before we get into it, I do a thing with my guests where when I ask them a series of questions to get us warmed up. So the first one is, when were you diagnosed with ADHD? Then the second one is, what are your current hyperfixations or special interests? And what is an ADHD trait that you feel is unique to you?
Mm. Okay, when was I diagnosed? I was diagnosed about 7 years ago. Um, Took my oldest daughter into first grade, and we kind of already knew from preschool and kindergarten, like some things are going on. But like as I stood there, just watching, and like, there's just no place for her. There was just like no room for how much energy she had and for how much she wanted to talk with other people and how curious she was. It was just like, oh, this is not gonna work. So yeah, saw that, and that's when I got my diagnosis shortly thereafter, after diving into the research and recognizing it in myself. Um, okay, second question. My ADHD is showing. What was the second question?
No, and you know what? That was really mean of me to ask it like all in one rather than doing it one after the other. So that's actually bad on my part as an ADHDer. So the second question is, what are your current hyperfixations / special interests?
Oh gosh. I mean, really, coaching is my hyperfixation, and like learning how to run the business side
Love.
of it. So I've been hyper focusing on how do I how do I do this craft? And now I've got this whole other side that's like, it's a whole different set of skills, and it's so yeah, so learning that is kind of my hyper focus. And then unique to me, I mean, it's an interesting question because so much of what is fun about learning about ADHD is finding commonality with other people that you didn't know you had,
Yep.
I think something that's interesting about me is like I can have like an inverse relationship with encouragement. Like
Okay.
some I don't know if you've ever experienced this. Like if I'll go running with my husband and he's like, good job, immediately I'm like, don't say good job. Please don't say good job. Like
Oh.
it demotivates me sometimes.
Okay.
So
Like it causes you pressure, like you're if you're saying
well,
good
there's
job, I have to keep doing it?
I don't know if it's pressure or if it's like, if you're telling me good job, you must think I need to hear the word good job. And it's so weird. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm fine. I don't need to hear the word good job. It's weird, but it's like,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah,
I've not
yeah, but
heard
it's
that
not in
one.
all circumstances.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
but
just my weird little quirk.
I like that. That's actually a very unique one
Yeah.
because most people, when they answer the question, it's something like, "Oh, I'm like quite organized." It's like there's a lot of ADHDs who are organized. Like that's not unique. Not to say that people aren't unique; they're all special in their own way. But that's actually very interesting trait. Yeah, I see. I'm the opposite. I need the encouragement. So if you don't say "good job," it's like, so you hate me. Like, what did I do to you?
Right.
It's awful, but I like that. That is actually very interesting. So thank you for answering those questions. So now we can really get into it. So, when you said, you discovered that you were ADHD through getting your daughter diagnosed, I feel like that's a really common thing is parents will often get their kids diagnosed or see their kids kind of be similar to them, and then it turns out that one of the parents is ADHD. Like that was the case with my dad. What did you feel being diagnosed so late? Was it a feeling of relief or grief or both or something different?
Well, I think it was probably more relief and like,
Mm.
oh, this makes sense. This
Mhm.
finally makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and looking back in my history and going, oh, okay, like not everyone was spending 2 hours on their homework in fourth grade. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
just
Yeah.
looking back and feeling like, okay, I'm not crazy that I've been working so hard to
Mhm.
keep up with everybody around
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's what it was. I had actually um, been on, yeah, a medication that was an antidepressant that also
Mhm.
helps with ADHD.
Mhm.
And it was like when I didn't really need it as an antidepressant anymore, I noticed like I'm still making decisions way faster than I ever did. Like things that I would
Mhm.
have like taken 20 minutes to decide, it was just
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I can make this choice," and went to
Mm.
the doctor and it was like, "Oh, this is also, used like off label to treat ADHD." So
HD.
that would be why. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm, mm.
Um,
I was gonna say, yeah, that is. I feel like a lot of. I either get two ends of the spectrum. People are either completely relieved that they got the diagnosis. They're like, yeah, it was late, but I got the diagnosis. It's all that matters. And then people feel a lot of grief of what could have been and what should have been. So I'm glad that it was relief. I also had relief, but I got diagnosed when I was very young. I was about 12 or 13. So it was like, oh, finally, like this makes sense. It takes me 4 hours to do my homework. Um, there's obviously something going on here. It's not just me being difficult. Other people don't do that. And always feeling like you're 10 steps behind, even though you're working so hard. I feel like that's a big ADHD trait when you don't realize you're ADHD. It's I'm doing all this work. I'm listening in class. I'm really trying to put my mind to it. And yet I missed everything. I have no idea what I'm doing. So that is it's a very common thing. I feel that. I feel that deeply. The other question I had is, so what sort of ADHD coach are you? And sort of how did you become qualified, and what was the process like?
Yeah. I mean, I think I lead with a lot of empathy. I think that's just in my nature.
Mhm.
I am not directive. I'm very much finding the genius in my clients, and that's
Mhm.
just my favorite thing. I think
Mhm.
I've been told um, that I have an ability to kind of sit back and maybe let people sit in the awkward for a minute because I have a level of trust in them that they're gonna figure it out.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of the kind of coaching I do.
Mhm.
I went through IACT, was the school I went through. They're
Mhm.
ICF accredited.
Mhm.
And it's very much like the school of thought there is, you know, I kind of think of it this way, like
Mhm.
we all have so much information or so many things we need to do, and
Yeah.
you can think of that as like the traffic that goes over a bridge. and then you've got like the structure and support under the bridge. And
Mhm.
like there's no way I can know what kind of support or structure somebody has better than they know.
Yeah.
So it's like me doling out advice or tips and tricks is just like nonsense when really they know the missing pieces once we start to
Mhm.
dig into the why.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so and sometimes it's such a simple shift,
mm.
but oftentimes people come to coaching going, "Please make me do the thing I can't make myself do,"
Mm,
you know?
mm, mm, mm,
And then
mm.
it shifts into this beautiful thing of like, "Oh my gosh, I get to do these things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And how am I going to create space
Yeah.
for myself in that?" And then in that way they get to grow because they don't if it was about what I bring to the table, then they would always need me. But it's more about
Yes.
like developing that inner sense of like I
I
everything
have
is
the
figure outable.
answers. I like that.
Yeah.
When I saw a psychoanalyst, the whole point of analysis is that they are not there to necessarily, and obviously it's different from coaching, but they're not there to therapize you and to dole out advice and viewpoints. It's very much you leading, and without sounding corny and wanky, but it's like you actually have the answers within, and the more you speak and figure it out, you will realize actually I know what to do. And sometimes you just might need someone else to help you like talk it out. But the answers are within, which sounds really woo woo, but it is true that you do have the answers a lot of the time. You just need people to ask you the right questions rather than just
Yeah,
directing.
and when I went into like the coaching school,
Mm,
I totally didn't understand that and I was looking for answers and I never would have believed it and thought it was
mm.
sunshine and rainbows and
Yeah,
like nonsense.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah,
But it's that.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, what are the majority of people that you see as a coach? And I can imagine, like, if I was to go see an ADHD coach, it would be, oh, help me with this thing. Like, if I wasn't as organized as I am, I could see myself going and saying, hey, I really struggle to like get to work on time. I need you to help me like figure out my life. I would treat it very much as life coaching. Is that the sort of people that you see, or is it a different like sort of people, or is it a mix?
I mean, it's all kinds of people. I think I relate really well with like therapists and artists and
Mm.
helpers,
Mm-hmm.
people who are like um really passionate about what they do or what they
Mm-hmm.
create
Mm-hmm.
or it could even be moms who are passionate about like just being a good mom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like all the stuff that comes with it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I can't keep track of my notes or my studio is disorganized and like my schedule's too wide open because I've created this I work for myself maybe and I've created all this freedom and now I like it's really hard to look at that blank slate and go
Yeah.
where do I begin.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, those are
Mm.
the a lot of the people I work with.
And do you find a lot of people come to you not necessarily had like in terms of for therapy, like they come to you with emotional issues. So it's not necessarily I need help with sort of structuring my life due to my ADHD, but they come to you with, let's say, I really struggle with my emotions, emotional regulation, or is it a lot more of people needing help with systems being put in place to sort of help them move on in their lives?
Gosh, I think what I found is like to me at least that stuff is so interwoven,
Yeah.
right? Like so often we hear as ADHDers like, "Oh, you just procrastinate." People with ADHD just procrastinate. But
Mhm.
procrastination is like an emotional regulation tool.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
avoiding the thing that makes us feel yucky. So
Mhm.
like in sessions if we can dig into like what's the actual thing that's making you feel yucky about this thing you're avoiding,
Mhm.
um once we dig into that then the procrastination might evaporate or you
Mhm.
might decide like actually I don't even want to do this thing at all. I'm going to pivot some more stuff in my life so that I don't have to deal with this thing I don't like.
Mm. Mm.
So I think a lot of people come to it with like I want like let's build a schedule, let's build structure, let's
Yep.
build like tips and tricks.
Mhm.
But then it does like you're kind of peeling back the onion going,
Yep.
okay,
There's something
there's stuff
else.
under it. And yeah, and a lot of people end up like, why am I getting so emotional? I came to you about this, that, or the other. but it is emotional and we're highly sensitive. And so it's really nice to have a safe space. Like I was the person in my like coaching cohort who like the tears came really easy for me. So
Aw.
I love being like that for other people, you know? Yeah, yeah.
And sort of that sounds lovely. I wouldn't be able to do coaching because I'd probably just cry with people. I cry all the time when people cry, so I'd be really unhelpful on that. I would not be useful. The question I have is a lot of people when they hear the word ADHD coaching, and I even felt this way. I'm like, oh, it sounds like life coaching, which I have very interesting views on life coaching. I think it can be very exploitative, but I've since learned that ADHD coaching is not like life coaching. It's very different. But what are the sort of misconceptions that people have about ADHD coaching that you would want to dispel? Because I think some people just think like, oh, it's just someone who like just wants to make money off of us and our insecurities and our issues, but they're actually like really helpful people who, help you create systems and like support you. So are there any sort of
Right.
misconceptions that you'd want to dispel?
I mean, there's probably every misconception, right? Like, I would say, like, just be I don't know, like interview a lot of people because
Mm,
I'm not saying every ADHD coach would be a coach I could recommend necessarily. Like look
totally.
into where they were educated. Um, and yeah, I totally hear that because there are a lot of life coaches
Mm,
that are more just giving advice that are like, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's unregulated. So I get it.
very,
It
yeah.
is kind of a scary environment.
Mm,
So find someone who's accredited, like
mm,
look into what schooling, like look at their reviews, like,
mm.
dig in.
Do your due
Um,
diligence. Mm,
yeah, do your due diligence. Like nothing wrong with like interviewing a few people and
yeah.
just see who you jive with. Cause I
Mm,
think that's so important too, is
mm-hmm,
like I think that's so like the trust and the relationship that you build
mm-hmm,
between the two of you is like key,
mm-hmm.
and if
Yeah.
you don't have that, then even if they're a great coach, but you're not a good fit for them, like you might not get far,
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Same with a therapist.
yeah.
Like people interview therapists before seeing them, before seeing lawyers. So yeah, people do your due diligence. And an ADHD coach is not like a life coach. It's very, very, very different. Now, before we started recording, you were talking about sort of your background and your history and like being, a foster parent and all of that, which I find really interesting. What is that like just being an ADHD parent and also being an ADHD foster parent? Because that sounds really wonderful. I'd love to foster one day.
Oh, yeah, let's see. Like we fostered for about 7 years.
Hmm.
And I think that's really I did an exercise about 5 months ago, like,
Mm,
looking back and going, "Where did my journey start?"
mm,
And it was really more like 14 years ago when we started training to become foster parents, so we
mm-hmm.
went through a lot of trainings teaching us, like, trauma-informed care, how to help these kids, feel safe when their nervous systems were totally on high alert. They didn't feel safe, um, rightfully so. They
Mm,
hadn't been in
of
safe
course.
places, and how do we bring them into our home? Because there's no learning without a sense of safety first.
Mm,
Like that part of your brain is just shut down.
mm,
And that goes for people with ADHD too. Like when we're in a state of fight or flight, like just forget it. You're not going to be able to learn. You're not going to be able to remember.
yeah.
Um, so I think like I constantly had this kind of dialogue with myself of like, how do I create safety for my kids?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was like lots of times it's just sitting there and being with them, and waiting for the storm to pass,
Mm, mm,
or
mm.
not talking very much and offering some like physical thing, like drinking through a straw can actually help calm your nerves. Like, so doing physical things that
Mm,
can help calm your emotions and like the interaction between those two things. We just focused a lot on that. Like sometimes when you have fear, you need to get that extra energy out because that fear is giving you energy to either fight something or run away from something.
yeah.
And if you don't use it, it's like you get emotional indigestion. It's just like you get stuck. And
I like that, emotional
um
indigestion. I'm gonna start using that. Emotional indigestion. That's really
yeah.
good. I love that.
So I think like I've had that framework like built into me for a long time of like our bodies are connected to the way that our minds work is connected to the fear we're picking up on in the
Mm,
environment. All these things are interconnected. It's
yeah.
not like separate.
Mm,
That kind of once my oldest was diagnosed, that's what kind of led me to ADHD coaching. But it's like if you have ADHD, you're probably highly sensitive. And if you're highly sensitive, that means like growing up in the world can be really traumatic.
mm.
Not because all the people around you are jerks or are trying to hurt
No,
you, but
no.
like things affect you really deeply.
Mhm,
So you might be in the same environment as somebody else, the same situation,
mhm,
but for you, it was more than your nervous system could handle,
mhm,
could digest in the moment.
mhm.
And so it leads up to these like little T traumas. So I think that's in part sometimes why coaching can be so emotional because a lot of us have like a ton of shame built
Mhm.
in from not
Yep.
meeting standards. Um, yeah. Does that
Mm.
answer
No, that
the question?
answers.
Yeah.
I was talking to another person. I think it was she's an ADHD educator, and she said I won't put it as eloquently, but it's like an ADHDer. Obviously, they're very sensitive. And if you combine like all the negative comments that they've received over a lifetime, it's like a lot to handle. And they're not necessarily negative comments, like people always being horrible, but just each remark like, she's really smart but she doesn't apply herself, or you're lazy, or you just don't care, you have selective if you combine all of those not very nice comments, it can have a very like detrimental effect. And like the average ADHD gets negative, more negative comments than someone else who's not ADHD over a lifetime, because you're just constantly being critiqued. So I can see how that would come up in coaching or in therapy, where people just have a lot of shame and distress over, yeah, just being told they're not great constantly. Yeah.
Uh,
It adds up.
yeah. And
Yeah.
even as a coach and a parent myself,
Mm,
it's hard for me because like my kids are getting into more stuff than a neurotypical kid would. So like even just
mm,
saying their name in that like tone, in that
mm,
negative tone. And it's
mm.
just like so I think one thing that I've learn to focus on for myself as a parent is like I'm only in control of my own reaction. Like that's it.
Yeah.
I really don't have a lot of control over I don't have control over my kids. They're going to react and they're going to do what they
Yeah.
want. I only
Yep.
have control over my response to the
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's one thing like a lot of parents are looking for coaching like for their kids
Okay.
and not
Yeah.
for themselves. And
Mm.
it's like, but you're the environment your kids are growing up in.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just like we have to so I'm always kind of going back to that safety of like how can I be a better and how can I fix the environment by working on myself
Mhm.
um for my kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
if the kids getting coaching, the parents ought to be getting coaching too.
Yeah,
Ideally,
that's
ideally.
yeah, that's yeah, that would be very overwhelming. And even like my parents, because my mum, she's neurotypical, but my dad's ADHD, and they often get asked, and I've done episodes with them where I ask them, what advice do you have for parents who are, overwhelmed by their children? And it's very much like, you have to seek help if you need it. Some parents, it's all good and their kid is fine and they don't need the support. But yeah, if your kids may be needing to go to therapy or coaching, it's great if you as a parent can also go, because you have to be regulated. Um, yeah, because if you're not regulated and your kid's not regulated, you would just lose the plot and you would snap, which happens. Like, of course, parents snap and lose control. We all have our moments, but if you're able as a parent to just say, "Yep, my kid's being a pain, but I'm gonna just regulate myself," it can make things a lot easier and a lot more harmonious in the house, rather than people like pulling their hair out and screaming. Yeah, that it checks out.
Oh, Absolutely. And like
Yeah.
coming back to the kid and apologizing.
Mm.
Like I still remember have a memory of like one time where one of my parents apologized to me and I was like that had never happened before.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that was like the one memory of that happening in my whole, childhood
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it meant the world to me because I was just like I'm important enough for my parent
To say
to
sorry.
apologize
Yep.
and just like we're teaching them, like, they're not going to go out into a world where relationships are perfect. So, like, we're teaching them this is how you repair and restore the relationship. And, like, this is how you apologize authentically. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
And that they're not
so
perfect, and we have this idea
yeah.
that parents are meant to be amazing, and of course, like, as a parent, you should do all the basics, look after your child, feed them. But we have this idea that parents are just these infallible things because they're adults and they should be amazing. But parents make mistakes, and they feel bad about them. And sometimes they like say sorry because they are human. We're all human. Like I was at the pool the other day and this kid was being really difficult. He was kicking his mum in the changing room. And I could see the mum was getting really upset. And she said, and at first I laughed, but then I realized it's actually really good that she said that. She said, I'm actually getting really overstimulated and I need to regulate myself. So I need you to stop. And the kid didn't stop, which is why it made me laugh. And he kept kicking. She goes, I actually need to take a break. You're overstimulating me. Take your goggles, because he was trying to put goggles on, and I'm just going to take a break from you. And she like sat and calm down. And I thought, you know what? That's like really insane to say to a 3-year-old because they have no idea what that means. But that was actually very wise to do. And parents have their moments, and it's okay to just be like, I can't deal with you right now. But it made me chuckle. But
Yeah.
I thought that's actually really good. I don't know how it would go down with like me as a 3-year-old. I would be like, what do you mean? Like you're not regulated? I'm going to annoy you. But it was like, well done, mum. Like that was a really good move.
Totally. And
Yeah.
like more is caught than taught, you know?
Yeah.
And so like kids do what you do, not what you tell them to do. So
Hmm.
like even though that 3-year-old doesn't know what the word regulated is, like
Yeah.
eventually they will and it's
Yep.
going to become a part of their vocabulary because mom did it in front of them and they're going to learn,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm allowed to have boundaries and step back if somebody's too much for me so
Yep.
that I can remain the person I want to be," you know?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep. I mean, he
yeah,
kept going, but then he
absolutely.
stopped. He stopped after a while, and then she was like, "Okay, I'm back." And then he was like, "I'm gonna hit you. You're funny." And it was like, "Okay, you need to do it again, maybe, mum." And he'll get it. But yeah, he'll maybe learn from it. So yeah, we've talked a lot about nervous system regulation. So, what are some ways that you keep calm, or that the people you're coaching, what do you tell them about keeping calm in the nervous system regulation? Because I feel like I'm very knowledgeable about me and my ADHD. And I have like coping strategies, which is basically my medication, but I actually don't really have any strategies with my nervous system regulation. Like I only recently learned about the window of tolerance and how to sort of deal
Okay.
with that, but I actually have no idea. I don't really listen to my nervous system very much. So I'd be keen to hear about the nervous system when it comes to
Oh,
ADHD.
absolutely.
Mm.
Okay. Um, well, I guess I would just start with understanding that there are some different like parts. So there's like the sympathetic nervous system, the reaction where it's like your body is reacting with energy,
Mhm.
right? Like, and it's giving you the energy to fight or to run away as though it was a tiger,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
coming after you, when in
Mhm.
fact it's just like your boss sending you a cryptic email you don't understand. Um, you
Yeah.
and I think it's helpful to know like where you're at. And then beyond that, we can go kind of into what's called dorsal, which is when you kind of shut down. So this happens
Mhm.
to me like at the end of the day a lot when it's like,
Okay. Yep.
that'd be more similar to playing dead. Like, okay, I've used everything I can do. I can't fight. I can't run away. I'm just going to shut it down. I'm going to
Numb.
pull the
Mm.
covers over my head and numb out. Maybe
Yep.
that's when you scroll
Yes.
or whatnot. So, and then there's, of course, like the place where we can rest and digest. And there are actual physical differences in your body depending on what your nervous system is picking up on. So you can
Mhm.
think of it as like your threat detection system
Mhm.
for your body, and it's constantly picking up on cues like internally within your body and externally to let your fear center know like you're in danger or you're not,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But like your fear center, like that is not under your conscious control. So basically, your nervous system is deciding, is sending information to the fear center and is going, okay, we need to shut down her prefrontal cortex even more because
Mhm.
right now she needs to fight or run away.
Okay.
So you can see how this would relate to ADHD, where
Yes.
we're already having a hard enough time accessing that part of the brain anyway.
Yes. Yes.
So when we feel anxious or afraid or nervous,
Mhm.
it's going to shut down, our memory and our ability to plan and prioritize and all those things.
Mhm.
And our heart rate, like when we're in fight or flight, your heart rate goes up,
Yep.
your breathing changes, you stop digesting food. So there
Yes.
are physical things. Your ears actually attune to like low growl sounds
Yep.
in like the fight space.
Yep.
And then like when you're feeling really calm and regulated, your
Mm.
body can digest food better. You actually get better sleep. So
Mhm.
if you fall asleep in anxiety, you don't get as much of a good night's
It's not a
sleep,
good sleep.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, so just kind of knowing that, and then, like we talked about, there's the shutdown where actually you don't feel pain at the same level, and your hands and feet get cold. All these things happen. So once you kind of understand some of those things, you can kind of reverse engineer
Mm.
some of the physical symptoms that happen to our bodies in those states
Mhm.
to bring you back.
Mm.
So, like one of my favorite things to do is to shake, like shake my hands or
Yep.
arms, like
Yep.
just shake my whole body
Yep.
if I'm feeling like I'm in fight or flight to help calm my nervous system. Um, if I'm in shutdown dorsal, that's when I want to do like really slow movements
Mhm.
because you got to think of it. I think of it as like you've got to unthaw slowly, right? Or else like you're gonna crack, you're gonna
Yeah.
break the ice.
Yes, I like that, I like
So
that.
it's just like,
Yep.
roll out of bed, just start like squeezing your fingers or like just little
Mm.
tiny movements. Um, when you're there, like you can do kind of one-to-one breathing where it's so when you're in dorsal,
Mm.
like your heart rate is really slow, and you can bring up your heart rate by doing one to one. So when you're breathing in, your heart rate speeds up, and when you breathe out, it slows down.
Mm.
So you can translate that into fight or flight. Your heart rate's going really fast.
Yep.
So if you breathe out
Mhm.
longer than you breathe in, it will help slow your heart rate and to help like calm you down.
Mhm.
Um, I've got a whole like free class on this on my
Okay.
website that goes through
Okay.
all of this in a much more like
I will
cohesive
use it.
way.
I will use it.
But yeah, go
Mm.
check it out. But one thing that I just like to remember is like I will embarrass myself in order to regulate myself.
Yeah.
So it's like it's worth it to me to do something really silly, like I will sing or hum or lay all the way down on the floor to snap my body out of that position. Like let's say I'm getting frustrated by my kids.
Mm.
If I like lay all the way down on the floor, my body's
Mm.
like, what's going on? Obviously, I don't need to fight anybody right now because I'm on the
On the
floor.
floor.
Nobody on the
Yep.
floor is getting ready for a fight. So it
No.
like switches my brain, or even this one's a funny one, but looking through a pair of binoculars, it
Okay.
changes your perception. This has worked for me. I haven't read this one anywhere, but it's works for me like a charm
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's like when you look through binoculars, it almost looks as though you're looking at old photos, right? Like it changes the way you perceive. And so
Mm.
then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look at my kids. They're so cute. They're not going to be this like little,
They're not driving me
because I've all of a sudden,
crazy.
yeah. And then
Okay.
it just changes your perspective because when we're in each of those states, like our perspective of the whole world around us
Changes.
changes.
Yep.
Um, so it's like when I'm in fight or flight, everything is a threat. My husband's a threat, my kids are a threat, like the messy refrigerator is a threat.
The perceived threat.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And so we've all felt that when it's like everything feels wrong and it's like, okay, when I know I'm looking at my whole life and going, the whole
It's
thing is a
crap.
mess,
Yeah.
then I need to like go, okay, what's going on here? Maybe I can shift the state of my nervous system and figure out
That
what's going on.
that checks out.
So,
When I'm at work, not that I get like necessarily like that at work, but when I find myself, if I've had like an annoying phone call with someone and they've really wound me up and the work's not working, I will actually go for a walk, which I find really, really helps me. And it's like great. And I go for a walk, or like I'll play some music and my colleagues and I will like dance and stuff. I don't know how productive that is, but we'll like have a dance and it's really, really helpful. But the thing that I struggle with, and maybe some other ADHDers do, is when I call it, when I get the red mist or the dark passenger, where I'm at the sort of, not necessarily the fight or flight, where it's that anger and frustration where it's at the peak. I've not done any of those steps. I've not done any breathing. I've not gone for a walk, and I'm right up here and it's not numb. It's like that anger, and I cannot come
mhm.
back down from it. And then when I do end up coming back down from it, I'm like, oh my God, what did I say to these poor people? Like, I snapped at my poor boyfriend. I've snapped at mum and dad. I've just completely lost the plot. What do you do when you're at that stage, when you're in the red mist and you're not, well, I call it the red mist, and I just am not going to come back down. And it's
Ah,
that anger. I
yeah,
hate it. It's horrible. I don't like being angry, but
it
people,
is.
yeah, it's a gross thing. I really dislike it about myself.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
When when I'm there,
Mm,
it's what's so hard about this, Lucy, is like the further you are up there, the harder it is to pull yourself out of it. You know what I mean? The less you're gonna want to do the things that are gonna help you. But for me, it's like I I try not to talk to anybody. Like once I know I'm
yeah,
there, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, nothing productive is gonna happen, even though everything in me wants to argue, wants to prove my point or
Mm.
whatever. I've got to know, like, I am like Hulk right now. Like, this is
Yeah,
just
it's
not the
Hulk.
real me.
See, everyone wants to talk to me when I'm in Hulk, so it's like, yeah, so I'll be in that, and then everyone wants to speak to me, and it's like, you actually have to stay away from me because I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
Sounds really
absolutely.
terrible, and it's like, I actually don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not responsible for what I'm gonna do if you stay here. So pick your poison, because I'm gonna,
Well, yeah, and
yeah,
that's when I remove myself. And no, like that's one of the first things we learned, like when we were foster parents, was like, don't try to reason with someone when they're in Hulk mode. Like, there is no reasoning.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay. They will come back and they'll feel much better about it if you just give them the
You leave them
space, you
alone.
know?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. I guess the ways,
Yeah,
how do, yeah. Yeah, no, go on, go on, go on.
and and not in a way that's like, go away, you're unworthy,
No,
right?
no, no,
But in
no,
a
no.
way that's like,
I'm gonna give you a
I'm
minute.
giving you space, but I'm right here.
Mhm.
Whenever you need me, I'm not leaving you because of this. It's just like, I know that you need space right now. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah,
like,
no.
I'm not punishing you,
No, no, no.
but yeah.
I'm gonna give you a minute. I guess the thing is, how do we know to avoid getting to the red mist? Because the fight or flight, that anxiety sort of feeling, that doesn't lead me to get off my rocker. That just leaves me feeling stressed, and I know the signs. But the red mist, as I call it, was it the red mist or the white mist? I don't know, but the red mist, I actually can't recognize when I'm getting to that, and I only know it when I'm there. The only thing I
I hear
recognize is
ya.
my throat starts to hurt. Like I get a lump in my throat, not because I'm going to cry, but I get a lump in my throat. And that's the only time that I recognize that I'm going to, yeah, hulk out on people.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
that is like you've already
Yeah.
told me, like you've got that one signal, right?
Yeah.
You've got the lump in your throat.
Yeah.
And like that's something that like I would coach with somebody on,
Hmm.
of like, let's backtrack the story, right? Like pick a
Hmm.
time when you went in the red zone and what happened before the lump? What happened before that? Like, and let's see if we
Mm.
can figure out what are some of the other maybe physical markers or other triggers. In like the little workshop I do, we've got
Hmm.
like a body map where you scan your body from head to
Okay.
toe
Hmm.
and you write out like, what are the sensations I feel in my body
Hmm.
in the different states of the nervous system?
Hmm.
And then what are the emotions that go with them? Because it's like, if you think
Mm.
about anger, um, there's like a physical, visceral thing going on.
Yeah.
And then we connect an emotion to it of like, oh, this means what? This means something, this means I'm under attack.
Yeah.
Oh, like something interesting I heard was like
Mm.
the idea of being excited and being nervous. It's like
Yes.
it's the
They're so
same thing.
similar.
It's the
They're
same
so similar.
physical
Yes. Yes.
sensations. And so you can kind of tell yourself, like before you have to go like speak in public or something,
Yeah.
like, I'm excited. And just tell yourself I'm
I've got the
excited. But
jitters. They're
anyway, like,
excited jitters. Yeah.
yeah, they're excited jitters, but, like,
Mhm.
with, like, the red stuff, I think what I do is I really try to check in with myself more often throughout the day,
Mm.
so that, like, I just try, to build that as a practice into my day
Mm.
because I know my nervous system fills up quick, right? So it's
Yep.
like I could spend all morning
Mm.
like meditating and walking and going outside, but that doesn't mean I could fill up really pretty quick after
Yep.
like 2 hours after that,
Yep.
and go
Yep.
into that red space. So it's like more frequent check-ins more often, like more micro doses of those things that bring you regulation, like
Mhm.
the walks and the silly dances and
Yep.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
um,
Can help.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I need to listen because I feel like I'm and I don't know if this is the same for you or other ADHDers. It's because I have so much going on in my brain. I rarely listen to what's going on in my brain. It's in my body. It's usually my brain, and I actually don't take the time to realize what my body is doing. The only time I find that is during the gym. When I'm at the gym, I'll realize actually this exercise is a lot harder because I'm not breathing. So I actually learn to breathe. Not that I don't breathe during the day, but I don't pay attention to the fact that actually you're breathing really shallow, like through the whole day, and you don't actually need to do that. So the only time I really listen to my body is in the gym. But I guess it's hard as an ADHD because there's so much going on up here that this actually feels disconnected when your brain and body are very much connected, especially when you're an ADHDer.
Yes.
They're very connected.
And I think that's so common. I think like at least for education in the US, like
Mm.
we're trained as kids to disassociate from our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about it, I can't like to send little like 4 and 5-year-old kids
Mm.
like to school and be like, okay, I know like you spent all up until now like kicking trees and tumbling around and you just want to be physical all day long, but
Yep.
right now we're going to make you sit down, be quiet. You
Yes.
can't go to the bathroom unless you ask.
Oh my god.
You're supposed to work on fine motor skills before you're
Yes.
ready. Like you have to wait to go to the bathroom. Literally, you're
Yes.
shutting down that connection between
6
your
hours a
brain and your
day.
body.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, like
Yes.
you've been
Yes.
trained to do that. So it's
Yes.
like a practice to reconnect those 2 parts of yourself.
Absolutely. It's such a thing like, is it were you born ADHD or is it just that the world is inhospitable that ADHD is an impediment? Like, was I really that bad at school? Or is it just the fact that we have to sit down for, 6, 8 hours a day and just have to sustain focus? And I mean, my high school was great on that level. They were really supportive, but the education system, and my parents are both teachers and they've said this, it's really difficult. It hasn't changed that much. You are expected to sit 8 hours a day and just listen to people talk to you. Yeah, it has not changed. The only thing that's changed is we don't hit children anymore. Yeah, and they actually have to go to school.
Yes,
They actually just have to be
I
sent to school because school's important, but they were only sent to school because their parents were factory workers and they couldn't like have their kids around at home, so you just send them to
oh,
school. Yeah, and it's
absolutely, and
yeah,
it's so counter to the
intuitive.
science
Yeah,
of how
hmm
people learn, and it's
absolutely.
like kids aren't actually learning to be scientists, they're reading about what other scientists did.
Yeah,
But they're not getting to like get their hands in and
yeah,
dig in and like experiment for
hmm
themselves. So
yeah,
no wonder they're bored. Like cuz they're natural born scientists, but it's like, you know, and it's so sad because I know so many educators who are so frustrated because they feel it too.
hmm
It's not their decisions and they're like having to teach to the test and like there's so
yes.
much pressure.
Mm,
So I just feel so much for teachers who are in this position
mm,
of so much pressure from above them and then from
yeah.
above those people and those
And from the
people.
parents as well, it's like, it's really, really difficult. And parents are like, my child, they read a lot. Like I taught them how to read and yet they didn't pass that test. And what a lot of parents don't realize and people don't realize, and I remember an English teacher said this to me. They said, even though, Lucie, you are an avid reader and you read so much and you read further for your age, when we do an exam about this specific book or an essay on just whatever topic, even though you'll write something really great, the kid who hasn't read the book and who rarely reads will probably get a better mark because they just know how to do the test. They just know how to take the test. You will be great in the long run, but in terms of the actual test taking, it's that kid will win. And test taking is such a bad way to measure one's intelligence and
Oh,
one's ability. Because if we just looked at my test results in primary school, you would think this child is unintelligent and will not do much. But it's a really poor measure because, yeah, obviously that's not true. There's no child that's just like stupid. And I use that in quotation
oh.
marks. Yeah, no such thing. Or a naughty child. It's, yeah, the environment that has been created, and it's so annoying. It's so silly. Yeah, it's really
It
silly.
is.
And then,
It's silly.
yeah, it's silly. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like you said, with so many ADHD traits, it's like if we could the word accommodate is weird. It's like it almost needs like a whole we need a shift
a
entirely,
shift
not
because
just like an
neurotypicals need it.
accommodation here or
Yeah,
there.
because yeah,
They need it too. Yeah,
they
it'd
need it
be better
too.
for everybody. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Because I can imagine, even just as an active child, not even a neurodiverse child, it's boring to sit down, like especially in primary school, having to sit on the floor. And the fact that I would get into trouble for walking around in the classroom. So I wouldn't bother anyone. Sometimes my work would be done. I would just get up to walk around. I wasn't being loud. I wasn't being difficult. And it was like, you need to stay in your seat. It's like, what is that? Like, I'm in primary school. What is that? You have to stay in your seat, or your handwriting was not done properly, so you need to stay in so your handwriting. So it's like, I don't have any good motor skills. I knew how to read before any of these children. Leave me alone if my handwriting is not neat. Like, it's so weird the way that we do things. Like when kids are in
Oh,
childcare, we encourage active children. It's like, yes, get them to play, get them to roll around. And then when they hit school age, it's like they have to stay in their seat. They have to do
yeah.
this and they can't move. They have to stay seated. It's
And
like, I
then you
don't
take
get it.
away like their recess or their outdoor time
Yes.
as a
Punishment.
consequence. And it's like,
Yes.
that's the one thing that's going to help them get through the rest of the day. And it actually, like, it will literally help them learn better. It's
Absolutely.
going to reactivate those
Absolutely.
centers of the brain.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like my teachers, what they would do, this is in primary school, they would kick me out of class, which I think is really bad because basically what you're saying is like I'm not going to teach you, so I'll just send you out, which I find really weird. And I understand sometimes teachers are at the end of their tether, and I get it. It's hard to have 20 students and there's one kid who's driving you crazy. But what they didn't realize is by sending me out of the class, I would go for a walk, which they would mistake for arrogance and for flippancy. But that was me regulating. So they would send me out and I would actually go for a walk and come back being much more focused. But they would be like, that's so disrespectful that you like went for a walk. Like, you sent me out of class. I don't know what you wanted me to do. Like, sit there. I went for a walk and I've come back and I'm actually ready to focus now and I won't be as, difficult to manage. So, yeah. But look, teachers are under a lot of pressure, but yeah, we should just change the whole system and it would be beneficial for everyone. Even teachers. Like, teachers need a break, you know? It's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They need a break.
Yeah. It absolutely is.
It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. How did you find navigating with your child being ADHD? Because you said there was no sort of space for her, and that's really what drove you to get diagnosed. How have you found her school supporting her with accommodations? I don't really like the word accommodations because it should just be like a thing, but how have you found that?
Right. Well, we actually pulled her out and homeschooled her
Okay.
that year.
Mm-hmm.
We pivot every year based on what everybody needs.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I've got two kids who are homeschooling
Mm-hmm.
and they're in like a charter homeschool. So they go into class like 2 or 3 days a week and then they're home the rest of the week. So it's a nice
Like
balance
a
of like
hybrid,
I
like
get
work
that
from home and go to
yeah,
the
it's a
office.
hybrid. So
Mm. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, when we homeschooled, it was all about like, we had a trampoline and we would like we would draw a clock on the trampoline and they would learn how to tell time by like being the hands of the clock, like stuff like that, that
So
it's just,
fun. It's
We
fun.
were able to do things that
Mhm.
you just can't do, in school, but like in a way that her whole body was engaged.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was really fun. Or like to when you learn about something in history, then you dress up and you reenact that thing as those characters in history, just like the way kids naturally want to do that. So we've done that, and we've pivoted. Like after COVID, our
Mm.
kids were so like crazy wanting interaction with kids that they went back
Course.
into public school full time for a while. And that's like what they needed that year, and so
Mhm.
they did that for a couple years, and we found a school that was really great, like doing the best that they could
Mm.
um within the public school system. There's still constraints, but like the
Yeah.
mindset that our local school had was awesome. Like I really loved the teachers and the principal.
Mm.
Yeah, but now we've got one kid just in regular public school and
Mhm.
two in the hybrid. So, yeah, I mean, really I feel like with ADHD we have to be able to pivot because it's like the needs change every year that our
Mhm.
kids get older. They're new and different people all the time.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's
I've
kind of
never
how
heard
we've
of
managed that.
ADHD working, well, not necessarily working. I've never heard homeschooling being used for ADHDs, and I don't know how common it is. It's really interesting. The only time you hear about homeschooling, well, the only time I hear about it is from like, those like parents who are like, the school system's evil, and I've decided to homeschool my child because I don't want them to go to school with all those horrible people. And it's like, okay, whatever. It's just cool. Like they don't, you know what? It's for the best that you homeschool your child, or it's for children who really struggle with school refusal, which can also be a very ADHD thing, that having to go to school is really difficult. So I've never met an ADHD or a parent of an ADHD kid who does homeschooling, specifically the hybrid model. That sounds really interesting. Do they enjoy the hybrid model? Do they prefer when they go in or when they're at home? I don't know what I would prefer. What do they?
Um Right. I mean, honestly, they like both. Both of those
That's good.
things feed each other.
That's great.
It's
Mm.
like and my youngest is on the autism spectrum as well as
Okay.
ADHD.
Yep.
So it's like he's such a homebody, just like leave me alone, let me
Yep.
play with my
Yeah,
toys,
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um but it's not like we're going to stay home all the time. So it's like
No.
finding that balance. So
Yeah,
for them it's really been a good balance.
that's
It's
great.
not as honestly, it's not as creative as when I was homeschooling them full time and it was
Mhm.
just like I was coming up with a curriculum because that school provides the curriculum.
Yep.
So it's a little bit more regimented.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, no, no. That's
Yeah.
no, that sounds really interesting. I've never heard of a hybrid model. And sometimes, I mean, I had a great experience in high school, but it's, yeah, maybe when I have an ADHD kid, I might try the hybrid model, because I feel like a lot of people are like, if you have an ADHD kid or a kid on the spectrum, you really have to make them integrate, and if they homeschool, they won't meet anyone. And there's this idea that if you homeschool, that like your children don't know any other kids, which is not true. Like there's a big network of homeschool children, and even my parents have found as teachers that the children who have done homeschool for most of their like high school years and then in their final year go to like a regular school are actually a lot more socially and emotionally apt and able to deal compared to children who have been in the normal school system and have always gone to school. They're actually fine. There's this idea that they're really awkward and that they don't have any friends, but it's not true at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, there's this opportunity that you open up because then, okay, so then you get to go to have play dates, right, with other homeschoolers. You go, you
yes,
meet people at the park. They're bringing their siblings, and you're bringing so they're
totally.
interacting with kids of all different ages. They're
Hmm.
interacting with the adults, and they get to do it for like hours at a time instead of
Yeah,
like two 15-minute recess sessions.
absolutely.
So they actually and they're interacting with people at the grocery store or wherever else like they happen to get to go.
And with adults
Um,
as well. I don't feel like children talk to
yeah.
adults enough, and it's really good to have, like, obviously your kids should, be around children, but, socializing with adults at the store. That's a really good thing, knowing how to speak to people. And obviously, I'm sure there's extracurriculars. Like, you would have a lot of extracurricular programs. Like, if you have a really sporty kid who's being homeschooled, you'd enroll them in like the local soccer club or whatever, and they would make friends there. Like, it's not, yeah, they're not cloistered. A lot of people think that. I
Right.
used to think that about homeschooling, like that they have no friends, but it's just not true. I was proven wrong. It is not the case at all. Yeah. Do you find a lot of the
Oh.
clients that you have kids, and they're sort of, I mean, you've said before that like they will come to sort of want to coach their children, but then you end up coaching them. But do you ever have clients where like you're actually just coaching with their kids, and how do you advise children or the parents? Like, how do you work with them on that? How do you sort of, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
manage?
I led a group actually at our local elementary school
Oh
of
wow.
parents
Yep.
of ADHD kids. Uh, did it a couple times. I might be offering it online soon.
Mm, mm,
And it's just like ADHD 101, like where to start.
mm.
We talk about attachment. We talk about what is ADHD, what isn't ADHD. We talk about like how to go to the doctor's office and feel like you know what you're talking about and what questions to ask. Just kind of like an overview, but more than anything, it was like a great place to build community between the parents so that they have a social network that they can
Mhm.
rely on because so many parents like are embarrassed or they feel ashamed, like they're the only one having this problem. And of course, parents get blamed for their kids' behavior and
Yeah.
you know.
Always.
So
Always, yeah.
that's that's one way I've supported parents. Um, I haven't I like, worked with obviously have my own kids and worked with
Of
kids, but I
course, of
don't
course.
coach kids yet.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
might coach kids later. But if a parent is coming to me with like an issue of how to do something with their kids, we might work through that. And I'm happy to like share resources and information. But that might be a place once again where I bring them to their own genius because they know their kid better than I do,
Of course.
in that
Yeah,
relationship. So yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. And then there was another thing you said you wanted to talk about, which I am interested in because I rely heavily on hyper focusing. And you sort of have said what makes ADHD coaching helpful, finding the genius, and why it's better than hyper focusing on tips and tricks. Because I find a lot of the ADHD support out there, not necessarily the coaching, but the sort of support and advice you see on social media. It's like, here are 5 ways that you can hack your brain, which can be really helpful. But I mean, our brains are complex. And if only a social media video had the solutions. And then if that were the case, then we wouldn't have a need for ADHD coaches and all the rest. So, can you talk more about that?
Um, yeah, like I think I'm the same way. When I see those tips and tricks, like they might be true,
Hmm,
right? They might be
totally.
accurate and really good.
And
The
helpful. Yeah.
thing is and helpful, but we can drown in advice.
Yes.
And it can be almost addictive, especially like if you're newly diagnosed and it's just like, oh my gosh, I need all the information. I have to fix myself. I got to fix my ADHD. What does this person say? What does that person say? And
Yes.
that's like becomes a block to listening to yourself. And like, you might want to build structure into your life, but if you're not like getting a good night's sleep, none of these things are going to be helpful. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So sometimes we have to like fill the cup with like the really big rocks first of like let's figure out what's going
The
on
root. Yeah.
before we can the root what's going on at the root before we can like add all these little sprinkles and nuggets of like have you tried this little thing, like those things can be fun,
Yeah.
but like if they're not coming into like your realm at the right time for you, there's like a difference between like information and like embodied knowledge that you know that you know that you know. And so that's what I love about coaching is it like turns these things that like you thought you knew it
Mm.
and then you know it like at a much much deeper level and you start acting on it because you're excited about it because it resonates all of
And
a
you're
sudden.
doing it, it's not
um
this advice coming at you that you're like, "I have to take it on." And I can imagine as well that, like, let's say you try these hacks and they don't work or you don't do them properly, then you would just feel like crap. It's like, the tip, I didn't do the tips properly, I didn't stick to that 5-day rule, or it didn't work on me, there's something wrong. And it just creates like a lot of upset that's not necessary for an already overwhelmed person.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, even I still like it just draws you in, right? Like it
Oh, yeah.
sounds like so. Oh my gosh, there's
I didn't
five
think of
tips
that.
that are going to teach me this thing. Like I want to know, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
more often than not, I find I'm like, oh, this is just not the right information at at the right time.
At the right time. Yep.
Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Or even like I find I will like there's this ADHD creator, I can't remember what their name is, but they've released vitamins, which I'm like, yeah, if only. And like the whole premise is, these vitamins will not reverse your ADHD, but it'll just really reduce your symptoms. And I'm thinking, ADHD's been around for a long time. If there were vitamins that could help with my symptoms, I think we'd all be on them. And but you see desperate people in the comments being like, oh my God, like how did I not know about this? Or I've been on them for 6 months and it's not working. Am I taking them correctly? And it's like, I think they're just vitamins, guys. Like you're just
Oh,
gonna like have a bit of better sleep and a bit of like, better iron, but I don't think it's doing anything for your ADHD. Or maybe it's confirmation bias.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and these are the things that it's like,
Mm,
it's not gonna be one thing like that
yeah.
that's gonna like solve you.
If
Like you
only.
can start to you can start to like accumulate, right? Like your
Yeah.
bag of trips and maybe vitamins like help you. Maybe you're deficient in B12 or
Yeah.
iron or whatever,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
it is helpful. But it's like when it's sold as like this is gonna like change your
Cure.
whole life and change your world. It's like, no, it's like ADHD is how your whole mind works, right? Like, so it affects everything. So,
It's
like, we
neurological.
work
Yeah.
on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we finish up, is there something, well, two pieces of advice that you would want to give in sort of what do you want people to know about ADHD coaching, and what do you want people to know about being, an ADHD parent, whether that is to a ADHD kid or a neurotypical kid? What wisdom do you have for the listeners?
Mm. I think about ADHD coaching as I would say like I still get coached. Like there is no place that you reach where we no longer need support. And just like how you said like in school systems it would be great if we just shifted the paradigm, right?
Mhm.
I wish we would just shift the paradigm to normalize that humans are made to need each other. Like
Yeah.
we need community, we need each other. Like I body double, I get a coach. It's
Yes.
not like I'm going to reach some pinnacle where it's like, let me tell you what to do from on high. Like that is just not a place. And so if you're wondering about coaching, like, um, it can just be so incredibly helpful. Like it
Mm,
just really shifts the narrative to
mm,
feel safe and seen and understood and be able to figure out your own life in good company with somebody gets who gets it.
mm.
And for parents, I would say, like, it's hard not because there's something wrong with you. It's hard because it's hard. Like, it's hard. It's legitimately hard. I think we're always like, for me, like the narrative could be like, oh, why am I messing up? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
parenting is hard, and especially like so many of
Regardless.
us,
Mm,
yeah, don't have like um the village that we used to, like before COVID hit. Like
yes.
I feel like culturally we have shifted to looking at other people as more dangerous than as like somebody that could be relied on. And
The village is so important. We think it's an old thing. Like back in the day, they would have, you would have your family living near you or with you and helping you. And that's so old. It's like, yeah, we still need that. You still need your village,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, that's something I'm focusing on for myself this year.
Yeah.
We live rurally, so it's very isolating and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this year is like the year that I reach out and like I
Yes.
have really good friends, but they're like here and there and sporadic and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I want that net back,
Yep.
of
Yep.
like these people all know each other. Um yeah, so I would just say like sometimes in my hard moments of parenting, reminding myself that it's hard can ease that shame burden. Because then it's not like, oh, there's something wrong with you, that you can't figure it out. Just be like, oh, this is hard because parenting is hard. Uh,
Absolutely.
you know? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. It's hard because it's hard. That's very poignant. I love that. So where can people find you? Again, plug your socials. Obviously, they'll be in the show notes, but tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at jennybethke.com, JennyBethke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram as ADHD-ish coach, and on Threads is the same thing, I think.
Yes.
um, yeah, and I've got like a free journal that focuses on some of like the mindsets that I see in people with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
like 7 different things. It's not going to cure you, but it's helpful.
It's not a vitamin. It's not going to fix you.
And not that you need cured.
No,
You know what I mean?
no,
But like,
no.
and then I've got the free like nervous system regulation course. I think it's somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes long.
Love.
And you get a printable PDF that you can start
Mhm.
tracking like what's going on with your body.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to print that afterwards.
Awesome.
I mean that. I'm actually going to do that afterwards. After that.
That's
Sounds
awesome.
awesome.
That's
It's fantastic. Well, thank you so much
Whoa.
for sharing your wisdom. It was a real joy, and I think this was like a really fruitful conversation. We got sort of into the sort of brainy bits, which I don't often do on my podcast, so I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom. And it was really great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucie.
All right.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.